Hi guys, welcome back to the Bright Life podcast. I'm so pumped to be here with you today and want to answer a question from one of my clients around perfectionism. So how do you let go of that urge for perfectionism when you are building something, when you're doing something new, when you're just out and about in the world? And I have definitely had to navigate this as well. So I want to share some thoughts. I think this is perfect for anyone who is an achiever, who has a strong ambition, who has a strong growth drive, and you're kind of sometimes caught up between that feeling of wanting to be your best, but so much pressure on yourself to do that it's this push-pull of like, can you move forward? Can you be gentle and loving on yourself without having everything have to be perfect all the time? So here are some things that have helped me, and I hope that they help you as well. Definitely let me know in the comments if any of these resonate, and make sure you subscribe for future videos and podcast episodes like this. Okay, so the first thing to consider is what in you says you have to be perfect to be safe. So where along the way did you learn that perfection equaled safety? A lot of times we pick this up from our school system, where if you want to get the extra credit and the A and highlights in front of the class, you've got to be perfect. You've got to get 100% plus extra credit. Sometimes we pick it up from our families, our mothers or fathers, or family dynamics. There's so much conditioning around making sure that you do things just right, because it creates this feeling of safety where if you do things just right, then you will get the good job, then that will lead to the promotion, then that will lead to safety in your finances and in your life, and maybe even socially in finding the right mate or things like that. So what I always like to get curious about with beliefs that no longer feel like they're helpful, like perfectionism, is where did you learn you had to be that way in order to feel safe in the world? Once you figure that out, you can start to unwind it, and you can ask yourself, is that really true? You can start to honor the ways that you did need to be perfect, maybe at some points, or to feel like you had to be, and you can see how that protected you and helped you throughout your life. And then you can also start to ask, is this still true for me? Is it the truest truth? Or what else could be true? And so maybe there's an answer inside of you that starts to emerge that's like, this really helped me stay safe throughout my childhood in these ways. However, going forward, I also want to allow in that I'm a human, that I'm allowed to experiment and to grow. And maybe you want to give yourself that room and that gift of being able to be imperfect, but still valuable and worthy, even if no one gave that to you from throughout your life, right? So first is kind of questioning, where did this belief come from and what feels true for you and for your life right now? And if this one feels hard to latch onto, then here are some reframes that you can borrow that have helped me unwind that feeling that perfectionism and doing things exactly right is the best way to be. Okay, so the first thing that I think about is that anytime that you are growing, it's a good thing, and growth will always require you learning how to do something for the first time. So yes, you could stay in a life or a job or a path where you become perfect at something because you've done it so many times that you know exactly how to do it. But that's probably not going to be the most fulfilling path forever. And it's probably eventually going to cause some kind of disharmony in your own body or mind if you feel like you've outgrown something that you now have to stay in just because it feels safe to be good at it. So I try and remind myself that if I am growing, then that means I'm going to be learning and experimenting and trying things for the first time. And that means that I'm not going to be always so good at them because it's my first time doing them. Even being a human, it's your first time doing this. It's your first time around the sun. And so if you can give yourself a little grace in that and realize that you're just doing the best you can, maybe it can alleviate some of that feeling of you have to be perfect at something the first time you've even done it. You would never put that pressure on a friend, on a child. Part of the joy of children, and when I'm with my niece and nephew, for example, is I love seeing them do things and make messes for the first time, because that's part of the fun of seeing their minds start to learn and adapt and get it. And so you can apply that same kind of loving filter for yourself, especially if no one ever gave that to you, of like, you don't have to be perfect the first time you're doing things. You don't have to be perfect the 10th or 100th time. As long as you are moving forward, you are growing, you are doing the best you can, knowing that looks different day to day, then like that can be a win. So like, what is that new definition of success and of safety that you can give to yourself, knowing that growth is part of the process? One thing that also has helped me, especially when it comes to business and building a podcast or writing books or, building a website, is just remembering that people will feel your energy more than perfection. So yes, of course you want to spell check your website. Of course you want to do the best you can, putting out solid audio in a podcast. You want to make sure that your book is the best representation of you at that time. However, I started to really notice in my business that even if I did things imperfectly, people would respond when I was being my most genuine, heartfelt self. So it didn't matter so much if I made one tiny mistake in an email or in a YouTube video. That's gonna happen because I'm human and you're human. But hopefully, even listening to this or watching this, you can sense the energy coming from me to you. You can sense what I really feel about how much I genuinely want to support and be there with you, and share the things that I'm learning that maybe can help you as well, because we're both going through these things and able to help one another. So if you can feel that, I think you're going to be way more connected to that than this polished, crisp, perfect website. It doesn't translate the same, right? Because we're all humans and we all have messiness. So that's what you're going to be able to relate to on the other side, is just a human who's talking to you like another human. And so for you, I hope that helps release some of the pressure to be perfect. Or if you're waiting to publish your website to the world, or your first blog post, or you're waiting to even get that podcast episode out there, it's like, can you feel your energy come through? And if so, that's a win. Release the need for it to be perfect and just trust that your energy will fill in the gaps of whatever may be a quote unquote mistake or imperfection out there. All right. Another thing to keep in mind is you only need to be a few steps ahead of the people that you feel called to help. So if you are waiting for perfectionism, sometimes this looks like getting another degree, another certification. You may be fully qualified, but you're waiting to get one more qualification to feel worthy and qualified. That's how it's come up for me. I definitely was in that cycle for a long time, just needing to learn one more thing, needing to have one more professor or instructor say like, you're ready. You really just need to remember that there are people out there right now that you can help with the skills you have now. You don't have to be the world's foremost expert in something in order to help a lot of people that really just want to see the next few steps that you know the answer to and that you can provide. So this can look like in a business, if you are looking to be a writer or a designer or an interior designer, and you're like, I don't know if I'm the best person in the whole world at this. So you're not sharing, you're not signing new clients, you're waiting to get your portfolio out there or share on social media. Ask yourself, but do you know enough to help people that are a few steps behind you right now? And if so, that's enough to get going. I have been so inspired and encouraged by people who are still learning, but they're sharing with me what they're learning that's a few steps ahead of me. And so I know that you can be able to do the same for others. I would love to work with a designer who's a graphic designer or an interior designer who knows a little bit more than me, because they can help me along, and they're probably going to be in the price range I'm looking for, and they're going to be relatable and accessible in a way that the top expert in the world just isn't. There's a place for everyone, and there's a price point for everyone, and there's structure that works for all different kinds of people. So just think about that. You don't have to be right for every single person. You just need to be a few steps ahead of whoever you want to serve. And 99% of the time, that does not require being perfect. Of course, you're going to do the best you can. Of course, you're going to put your best effort out there. That's 100% part of this. But you don't have to stop and wait and hold yourself back waiting on this perfect idealized version of yourself, because there's a lot of people out there who probably want your help exactly as you are right now. All right. Along with that, one thing I've learned being in business for years and years now is that things are changing all the time. So if you're going to wait until things feel perfect, the next social media platform is going to come out. The next video platform will be here. The next way of doing things will emerge. I mean, I spent so many years learning how to do things one way with Instagram or with long form blog posts. And now look, with ChatGPT, blogs are becoming less and less of a thing. Now people want short form everything. So as soon as you wait to be perfect at something, if you wait too long, it's just going to switch and you're going to have to be at the starting line again, learning and learning and learning behind the scenes and never actually getting your beautiful voice and work out there. So start today with what you have. It's the best way to learn and become an expert and get feedback now, so that by the time the next thing comes along, you've already gained all that data and information about what you want to speak on and who you want to help and how you want to do it. And you're ready to jump and dive right in, instead of always just being behind everyone else, waiting to get up the nerve to start because you're waiting on some false idea of perfectionism. Okay, so those things have helped me unwind this idea that I have to be perfect and that perfectionism is actually the best way to do things. It's helped me question that a lot. And if we circle back to the very first question we talked about, which is, where did you learn you had to be perfect to be safe? Then I also want to round this out and close off with saying this could be the opportunity for you to be your own best cheerleader in this next era of your life. You may not have had someone who showed you how to feel safe without being perfect, but that's where you come in, and that's where you can be the adult that you needed then, the caretaker, the parent, the teacher, where you can be your own biggest supporter, and where you can be so proud of yourself for taking a scary step, for putting something out there when it's not perfect. You can know how hard it is for you to take that step imperfectly, and you can cheer yourself on, and you can be the loudest one rooting for yourself. So in my view and in my experience, it kind of takes having a thought or an affirmation or mantra to go to in those times. So it goes back to that, like, what is a new belief that could serve you? What else could be true other than perfectionism is the only way to feel safe? And so if that's the case, what helps you? Is it like, I give myself permission to do it messy? Is it, I'm so proud of myself for taking imperfect action? Or I know I can help so many people out there right now with how I am today. Borrow any of those things, write your own, pull in pieces together and mix and match them. But that way your brain can have something else to go to instead of that old way of believing that maybe isn't serving you anymore. So those are all the ways that help me get out of that trap of perfectionism and invite in a lot more self-love, compassion, grace, and just enjoyment of the journey. You can let it be messy, and you can find a lot of fun and even safety in doing that if you frame it in a way that actually serves you in this next chapter. So I'd love to hear if one of these resonated. Which one was it? Let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back with a new episode next week.